charlatanry. Quadrate, to divide into quarters. Quadruple, to multiply by 4. Qualification, a requisite for an employment, position, right, or privilege. Qualify, to endow or furnish with requisite ability, character, knowledge, skill, or possessions. Qualm, a fit of nausea. Quandary, a puzzling predicament. Quantity, magnitude. Quarantine, the enforced isolation of any person or place infected with contagious disease. Quarrelsome, irascible. Quarter, one of 4 equal parts into which anything is or may be divided. Quarterly, occurring or made at intervals of 3 months. Quartet, a composition for 4 voices or 4 instruments. Quarto, an 8-page newspaper of any size. Quay, a wharf or artificial landing place on the shore of a harbor or projecting into it. Querulous, habitually complaining. Query, to make inquiry. Queue, a file of persons waiting in order of their arrival, as for admittance. Quibble, an utterly trivial distinction or objection. Quiescence, quiet. Quiescent, being in a state of repose or inaction. Quiet, making no noise. Quietus, a silencing, suppressing, or ending. Quintessence, the most essential part of anything. Quintet, musical composition arranged for 5 voices or instruments. Quite, fully. Quixotic, chivalrous or romantic to a ridiculous or extravagant degree. Rabid, affected with rabies or hydrophobia. Racy, exciting or exhilarating to the mind. Radiance, brilliant or sparkling luster. Radiate, to extend in all directions, as from a source or focus. Radical, one who holds extreme views or advocates extreme measures. Radix, that from or on which something is developed. Raillery, good-humored satire. Ramify, to divide or subdivide into branches or subdivisions. Ramos, branch-like. Rampant, growing, climbing, or running without check or restraint. Rampart, a bulwark or construction to oppose assault or hostile entry. Rancor, malice. Rankle, to produce irritation or festering. Rapacious, disposed to seize by violence or by unlawful or greedy methods. Rapid, having great speed. Rapine, the act of seizing and carrying off property by superior force, as in war. Rapt, enraptured. Raptorial, seizing and devouring living prey. Ration, to provide with a fixed allowance or portion, especially of food. Rationalism, the formation of opinions by relying upon reason alone, independently of authority. Raucous, harsh. Ravage, to lay waste by pillage, rapine, devouring, or other destructive methods. Ravenous, furiously voracious or hungry. Ravine, a deep gorge or hollow, especially one worn by a stream or flow of water. Reaction, tendency towards a former or opposite state of things, as after reform, revolution, or inflation. Reactionary, pertaining to, of the nature of, causing or favoring reaction. Readily, without objection or reluctance. Readjust, to put in order after disarrangement. Ready, in a state of preparedness for any given purpose or occasion. Realism, The principle and practice of depicting persons and scenes as they are believed really to exist. Rearrange, to arrange again or in a different order. Reassure, to give new confidence. Rebellious, insubordinate. Rebuff, a peremptory or unexpected rejection of advances or approaches. Rebuild, to build again or anew. Rebut, to oppose by argument or a sufficient answer. Recant, to withdraw formally one's belief in something previously believed or maintained. Recapitulate, to repeat again the principal points of. Recapture, to capture again. Recede, to move back or away. Receivable, capable of being or fit to be received, often money. Receptive, having the capacity, quality, or ability of receiving as truths or impressions. Recessive, having a tendency to go back. Recidivist, a confirmed criminal. Reciprocal, mutually interchangeable or convertible. Reciprocate, to give and take mutually. Reciprocity, equal mutual rights and benefits granted and enjoyed. Recitation, the act of reciting or repeating, especially in public and from memory. Wreck, to have a care or thought for. Reckless, foolishly heedless of danger. Reclaim, to demand or to obtain the return or restoration of. Recline, to cause to assume a leaning or recumbent attitude or position. Recluse, one who lives in retirement or seclusion. Reclusory, a hermitage. Recognizance, an acknowledgment entered into before a court with condition to do some particular act. Recognize, to recall the identity of a person or thing. Recoil, to start back as in dismay, loathing, or dread. Recollect, to recall the knowledge of. Reconcilable, capable of being adjusted or harmonized. Reconnoiter, to make a preliminary examination of for military, surveying, or geological purposes. Reconsider, to review with care, especially with a view to a reversal of previous action. Reconstruct, to rebuild. Recourse, resort to or application for help in exigency or trouble. Recover, to regain. Recreant, a cowardly or faithless person. Recreate, to refresh after labor. Recrudescence, the state of being raw or sore again. Recrudescent, becoming raw or sore again. Recruit, to enlist men for military or naval service. Rectify, to correct. Rectitude, the quality of being upright in principles and conduct. Recuperate, to recover. Recur, to happen again or repeatedly, especially at regular intervals. Recure, to cure again. Recurrent, returning from time to time, especially at regular or stated intervals. Redemption, the recovery of what is mortgaged or pledged by paying the debt. Redolent, smelling sweet and agreeable. Redolence, smelling sweet and agreeable. Redoubtable, formidable. Redound, rebound. Redress, to set right as a wrong by compensation or the punishment of the wrongdoer. Reducible, that may be reduced. Redundance, excess. Redundant, constituting an excess. Reestablish, to restore. Refer, to direct or send for information or other purpose. Referrer, one who refers. Referable, ascribable. Referee, an umpire. Refinery, a place where some crude material, as sugar or petroleum, is purified. Reflectable, capable of being turned back. Reflection, the throwing off or back of light, heat, sound, or any form of energy that travels in waves. Reflector, a mirror as of metal for reflecting light, heat, or sound in a particular direction. Reflexible, capable of being reflected. Reform, change for the better. Reformer, one who carries out a reform. Refract, to bend or turn from a direct course. Refractory, not amenable to control. Refragable, capable of being refuted. Refringency, power to refract. Refringent, having the power to refract. Refusal, denial of what is asked. Refute, to prove to be wrong. Regale, to give unusual pleasure. Regalia, the emblems of royalty. Regality, royalty. Regenerate, to reproduce. Regent, one who is lawfully deputized to administer the government for the time being in the name of the ruler. Regicide, the killing of a king or sovereign. Regime, particular conduct or administration of affairs. Regimen, a systemized order or course of living with reference to food, clothing, and personal habits. Regiment, a body of soldiers. Regnant, exercising royal authority in one's own right. Regress, to return to a former place or condition. Regretful, feeling expressive of or full of regret. Rehabilitate, to restore to a former status, capacity, right, rank, or privilege. Reign, to hold and exercise foreign power. Reimburse, to pay back as an equivalent of what has been expended. Rein, a step attached to the bit for controlling a horse or other draft animal. Reinstate, to restore to a former state, station, or authority. Reiterate, to say or do again and again. Rejoin, to reunite after separation. Rejuvenate, to restore to youth. Rejuvenescence, a renewal of youth. Relapse, to suffer a return of a disease after partial recovery. Relegate, to send off or consign as to an obscure position or remote destination. Relent, to yield. Relevant, bearing upon the matter in hand. Reliance, dependence. Reliant, having confidence. Relinquish, to give up using or having. Reliquary, a casket, coffer, or repository in which relics are kept. Relish, to like the taste or savor of. Reluctance, unwillingness. Reluctant, unwilling. Remembrance, recollection. Reminiscence, the calling to mind of incidents within the range of personal knowledge or experience. Reminiscent, pertaining to the recollection of matters of personal interest. Remiss, negligent. Remission, temporary diminution of a disease. Remodel, reconstruct. Remonstrance, reproof. Remonstrant, having the character of a reproof. Remonstrate, to present a verbal or written protest to those who have the power to right or prevent a wrong. Remunerate, to pay or pay for. Remuneration, compensation. Renaissance, the revival of letters and then of art which marks the transition from medieval to modern time. Rendezvous, a prearranged place of meeting. Rendition, interpretation. Renovate, to restore after deterioration, as a building. Renunciation, an explicit disclaimer of a right or privilege. Reorganize, to change to a more satisfactory form of organization. Reparable, capable of repair. Reparation, the act of making amends as for an injury, loss, or wrong. Repartee, a ready, witty, or apt reply. Repeal, to render of no further effect. Repel, to force or keep back in a manner, physically or mentally. Repellent, having power to force back in a manner, physically or mentally. Repentance, sorrow for something done or left undone, with desire to make things right by undoing the wrong. Repertory, a place where things are stored or gathered together. Repetition, the act of repeating. Repine, to indulge in fretfulness and fault-finding. Replenish, to fill again, as something that has been emptied. Replete, full to the uttermost. Replica, a duplicate executed by the artist himself and regarded equally with the first as an original. Repository, a place in which goods are stored. Reprehend, to find fault with. Reprehensible, censurable. Reprehension, expression of blame. Repress, to keep under restraint or control. Repressible, able to be kept under restraint or control. Reprieve, to grant a respite from punishment to. Reprimand, to chide or rebuke for a fault. Reprisal, any infliction or act by way of retaliation on an enemy. Reprobate, one abandoned to depravity and sin. Reproduce, to make a copy of. Reproduction, the process by which an animal or plant gives rise to another of its kind. Reproof, an expression of disapproval or blame personally addressed to one censured. Repudiate, to refuse to have anything to do with. Repugnance, thorough dislike. Repugnant, offensive to taste and feeling. Repulse, the act of beating or driving back, as an attacking or advancing enemy. Repulsive, grossly offensive. Repute, to hold in general opinion. Requiem, a solemn mass sung for the repose of the souls of the dead. Requisite, necessary. Requital, adequate return for good or ill. Requite, to repay either good or evil to, as to a person. Rescind, to make void, as an act by the enacting authority or a superior authority. Reseat, to place in position of office again. Resemblance, similarity in quality or form. Resent, to be indignant at, as an injury or insult. Reservoir, a receptacle where a quantity of some material, especially of a liquid or gas, may be kept. Residue, a remainder or surplus after a part has been separated or otherwise treated. Resilience, the power of springing back to a former position. Resilient, having the quality of springing back to a former position. Resistance, the exertion of opposite effort or effect. Resistant, offering or tending to produce resistance. Resistive, having or exercising the power of resistance. Resistless, powerless. Resonance, the quality of being able to reinforce sound by sympathetic vibrations. Resonance, able to reinforce sound by sympathetic vibrations. Resonate, to have or produce resonance. Resource, that which is restored to, relied upon, or made available for aid or support. Respite, interval of rest. Resplendent, very bright. Respondent, answering. Restitution, restoration of anything to the one to whom it properly belongs. Resumption, the act of taking back or taking again. Resurgent, surging back or again. Resurrection, a return from death to life. Resuscitate, to restore from apparent death. Retaliate, to repay evil with a similar evil. Retch, to make an effort to vomit. Retention, the keeping of a thing within one's power or possession. Reticence, the quality of habitually keeping silent or being reserved in utterance. Reticent, habitually keeping silent or being reserved in utterance. Retinue, the body of persons who attend a person of importance in travel or public appearance. Retort, a retaliatory speech. Retouch, to modify the details of. Retrace, to follow backward or toward the place of beginning as a track or marking. Retract, to recall or take back something that one has said. Retrench, to cut down or reduce in extent or quantity. Retrieve, to recover something by searching. Retroactive, operative on, affecting, or having reference to past events, transactions, responsibilities. Retrograde, to cause to deteriorate or to move backward. Retrogression, a going or moving backward or in a reverse direction. Retrospect, a view or contemplation of something past. Retrospective, looking back on the past. Reunite, to unite or join again, as after separation. Revelation, a disclosing, discovering, or making known of what was before secret, private, or unknown. Revere, to regard with worshipful veneration. Reverent, humble. Reversion, a return to or toward some former state or condition. Revert, to return or turn or look back as toward a former position or the like. Revile, to heap approach or abuse upon. Revisal, revision. Revise, to examine for the correction of errors or for the purpose of making changes. Revocation, repeal. Revoke, to rescind. Rhapsody, rapt or rapturous utterance. Rhetoric, the art of discourse. Rhetorician, a showy writer or speaker. Ribald, indulging in or manifesting coarse indecency or obscenity. Riddance, the act of ridding or delivering from something undesirable. Ridicule, looks or acts expressing amused contempt. Ridiculous, laughable and contemptible. Rife, abundant. Righteousness, rectitude. Rightful, conformed to a just claim according to established laws or usage. Rigmarole, nonsense. Rigor, inflexibility. Rigorous, uncompromising. Riplet, a small ripple as of water. Risible, capable of exciting laughter. Rivulet, a small stream or brook. Robust, characterized by great strength or power of endurance. Rondo, a musical composition during which the first part or subject is repeated several times. Rookery, a place where crows congregate to breed. Rotary, turning around its axis like a wheel or so constructed as to turn thus. Rotate, to cause to turn on or as on its axis, as a wheel. Rote, repetition of words or sounds as a means of learning them with slight attention. Rotund, round from fullness or plumpness. Rudimentary, being in an initial, early, or incomplete stage of development. Rue, to regret extremely. Ruffian, a lawless or recklessly brutal fellow. Ruminant, chewing the cud. Ruminate, to chew over again as food previously swallowed and regurgitated. Rupture, to separate the parts of by violence. Rustic, characteristic of dwelling in the country. ruth, sorrow for another's misery. Sacrifice